And Coach Kyle, the Angry Soccer Guy, Kyle C. Wilson. I'm here and I'm going to be discussing the overview about how I plan practices for players between the ages of 6 to 12. Now, this is not your players in badge leagues. These are kids that play what I call in grassroots, that play in youth soccer, not the top level kids. So I'm going to be looking at how we structure practices for kids to meet them at their level between the ages of 6 to 12. So just very quickly about myself, if you don't know who I am, my name is Kyle Wilson, Kyle C. Wilson, the Angry Soccer Guy, the podcast guy, whatever you call me is awesome. But just real quick, I've worked 10 years in youth soccer, have a lot of experience. I do not have every single answer, but I have what I believe can save U.S. youth soccer. Pay to play is not going to end, but I have strategies and frameworks that I think will help change the environment, make it more in line for what the kids need to be successful. And that's what we're trying to figure out here. So when it comes to actually coaching, so if you're a coach or you're a parent that wants to understand coaching, or maybe you're going to be voluntold to coach, I'm going to share with you my best framework, like my top thing right here. Okay, so the idea behind this is when you run a practice, okay, you have to have three main pieces to this that I found when it comes to putting together activities and whatnot. And it doesn't need to be complicated. A lot of people think that it needs to be like some overly complex situation where the players have to be doing these passing patterns and these passing drills, and that's what you see on the internet, or you see Pep Guardiola running and top coaches. Fine. But we're talking about, in the target range I'm looking here, is 6 to 12 years old. That's what we're looking at. That's what we're trying to help. Okay, so this is the framework that I use, and it's three primary steps. Okay, the first one is you need to decide what the desired outcome is. The desired outcome is, what do you want to achieve from the practice? Not an exercise, but the entire practice. What do you want to achieve from that? Once you have that, what I then do is create my coaching points. So I have my desired outcome. What do I want to achieve from the practice? I then create my coaching points. That is what I tell the players to get them to that desired outcome, the target that we're trying to reach. Okay, and then once I have that built, I will then create my exercises. Well, I have a framework. It's my, what I call the age development curriculum that I run, and I'm going to explain to you exactly what that is and how I do it. And what that does is it's provided me an overview and an idea of how to actually help kids in their desired or their age group. What age are they at? How can we help them? Okay, now, before I dive into the age development curriculum and how I structure the session, I need to tell you how I got to that point. So what happened was, I decided, almost like every other coach that wanted to be a coach, I jumped in. I got hired by my first club, and you can probably guess that a lot of you probably experience as well, if you're a coach or if you're considering coaching, is that you're going to get hired or you're going to start coaching even if you're a volunteer, and there's going to be absolutely zero training from the club. They might give you like a handbook. They might give you a couple of exercises or some ideas to run, but they don't teach you, they don't train you, they don't prepare you for the environment. So same thing happened to me, like everybody else. And it took me 8 years to figure out how to actually do this, to actually be able to share this with you. So it took me 8 years. This is now my 10th year. So once I got it to 8, I started implementing it within my own organization. And now I'm able to say, hey, this is how I can help more people. Okay, so now we got that point. Here we are. Okay, so now looking at the age development curriculum for the 6 to 12-year-olds, okay, these are not your top level players. These are the kids that do not play in the badge leagues. They don't play in MLS Next. They don't play EA. They don't play ECNL. They don't play USYS Pro. Right? These are not the top kids that are in the exposure leagues. Now, here's my framework. 4 steps when it comes to this piece. I do a warm-up. I do a skill practice. And then I do an implementation of that skill practice. And then I finish with a competitive, or what we call competitive play. So warm-up, skill practice, implementation, competitive play, in that sequence. Now, depending on the group, their day at school, their life, whatever, sometimes you have to adapt and change. Okay, so I call it modification. Now, I'm going to give you, if you're a coach, my go-to thing. So even like the shirt that I'm wearing, Beast, we run a program here. The exact framework that I use. Okay, the first one is warm up. We always do either 1v1 or 2v2. Boom, the kids come, they are playing immediately. And we want 1v1, I prefer 1v1, but if you got to go to 2v2, we go to 2v2 as well. Okay, then from the practice, we've designed our activities, we create an exercise or exercises that we want to focus on. So it's a targeted practice Or we want to focus on, for example, fakes and feints, how to beat the defender 1v1, just as a quick example. Okay? Once we have that skill practice done, we then move into implementation of that practice. Because what I have found is a lot of kids will go and do like skill work with a trainer, which is awesome. They go practice skills. But then they never get the implementation piece of how do you actually apply the skill when you're playing against an opponent. Okay? Because it's one thing to do it with nobody around you or to do it at a cone. It's a completely different ballgame when you put an actual defender in front of somebody. So that's where implementation comes into play. So having implementation, you can then practice the specific skill work and then hopefully actually use it in a realistic situation. Okay, once we have implementation, we then go into what we call competitive play. This is our final piece of the puzzle where we want the kids to be competing. We want the players to earn the day, right? To earn the stuff that they're working for. So typically, competitive play is either 2v2 or 3v3. I prefer 2v2, but 3v3 is okay as well. And that's on rinse and repeat. And that is winner stays on. So they have to play, compete, and win. Because when we're looking at the kids that are what I call the average American soccer player in this age range of 6 to 12, they want to have these types of things. Okay? They want to make sure that they have fun. They want to get touches on the ball. They will get, by playing 1v1, 2v2, and 3v3, they're going to get a ridiculous amount, like 500% more action. So they're going to have the ball more. And then they're going to have to be constantly making more decisions, which is phenomenal. It gets their brain thinking. Then they also get to attack and defend and transition. So it's not just play defense. It's not just play offense. It's do both and the transition piece. They get to play all positions when they play 2v2 and 3v3. So similar idea, attack, defend, everything in between. And then they get to score goals. Kids want to score goals because they want to do their favorite celebration and do the Mbappe, or they want to do the Messi, or they want to do the Ronaldo. Whatever celebration they like because it's their favorite player, they want to replicate. And then the final piece with this, looking at 6 to 12-year-olds, is they want to play with their friends. Well, the best way to get them to play with their friends, in my opinion, where they're actually involved and they're engaged, is to play 1v1, 2v2, and 3v3. So that's the idea. That's the framework. I'll quickly recap it for you just in case you missed something. So when we create the training session, make it simple. And what I just showed you is that it's not complex. Okay, so first part is 3 keys. You need to have your desired outcome. What do you want to achieve from the practice? Your coaching points, which are the key pieces you're going to be telling the players throughout the practice that gets you to the desired outcome. And then you create your exercises. Now, the framework for the exercises are warm-up, skill practice, implementation, and competitive play in order. That's how I do it. Okay, so very quickly, the warm-up is 1v1 or 2v2. The skills practice is a targeted learning where we're trying to focus on a specific movement, or maybe it's ball mastery or whatever we're trying to achieve. And then we go into implementation, which is now we've practiced this foot skill or whatever we're working on. Let's apply it into a situation. All right, so let's say overlap. People always say, well, you need a bunch of players to do an overlap. No, you don't. You just need 2 players for an overlap. You can very easily intrinsically teach players how to do an overlap by simply having 2 players. Easy. You can use 1 defender. Anyways, moving forward, competitive play where they have to go earn a win. So they have to win to stay on. That's what our competitive play is. And then just to recap, this is the framework for 6 to 12 years old, focusing on the secret sauce, which I call 1v1, 2v2, and 3v3. And then think about the kids in this age range. They want to have fun. They want to score goals. They want to play with their friends. They want to be involved. They want to make decisions. They want to attack, defend, and receive the ball. And more importantly, I'll say it again, they want to have fun. So without further ado, guys, that's the framework. That's the idea. I hope that helps. And without further ado, for coaches, July 5th, big announcement coming. And I think you guys will absolutely love this because it's crazy that there is absolutely zero training. And I went through it. There is zero training for a coach, even as a volunteer or a paid coach. You get hired and you get thrown in. Across the country, it happens. And that needs to stop if we're going to be developing better players through the methodology. So that's how we're going to save USU soccer, and education always starts at home. And I call it ignorant debt because what you don't know harms either you or your player, or players if you're a coach. So the more that you know, the more that you can learn, the better off you're going to be. So without further ado, guys, see you guys later. Enjoy, and I'll talk to you later.